It took me a bit longer to get to this than anticipated, but here it is, my first attempt at a Q&A video. I had a tough time picking questions out of everything that was asked, but I've split everything I do have into 3 sections: TF2 related, personal, and sillies. Some questions have also been shortened in the interest of time. We don't want this video to go on for too long. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on to the first question. Hassan Kuyu asks, how did you find TF2? I found TF2 thanks to my brother, basically. He knew I liked cartoony animations and art styles, so he showed me the Meet the Spy video one day, and I watched him play it a few times. He also helped me out when I eventually started playing it myself, and is the reason I A. started out as a Pyro main, and B. had crouch bound to F. Don't worry, I don't use F to crouch anymore. Hamaji Neo asks, how did you get into graphic designing? Why the TF2 community? Were you always good friends of people inside the TF2 community, or was the tavern the main catalyst? How I got into art is honestly something I'm not sure of myself. All I know is that as soon as I was old enough to hold a pencil, I was doodling. When my dad got me a few Pokemon trading cards when I was 7, the first thing I did was copy the pictures on the cards and try to draw them myself. You could have given me a stack of printer paper as a gift and I would have been thrilled because it was more stuff to draw on. You get the idea? I don't know, drawing has just always been part of my life and basically part of my identity, and I can't imagine ever not doing it. It's just something I am innately drawn to, if you'll excuse the pun. As for the TF2 community, for the first few years of playing, I didn't really interact with any sort of community related to the game. I just played and occasionally did horrendous drawings of my Pyro, and that was it. I would say that changed when I revived an older Twitter account of mine back in January of 2015. Through that, I was gradually able to meet other people in the community and get my artwork out there. It was definitely the tavern server that helped me get to know everyone and really feel like I was part of this big family of nerds though. Even if certain people keep taking screenshots of things I say and posting them out of context on Twitter. Jan Konarski asks, who are your 3 favourite Gmod or SFM animators? There are a ton of talented SFM and Gmod animators out there whose work I love, but since I can only pick 3, I'd say Crocodile, Crazy Scout Finn, and Raxo. Crocodile partly because he's responsible for the Timeless Team Service announcement videos, but mostly because he's the one who helped me start to experiment with animating in SFM. I found a guide he'd done on his Twitch account, and after watching it, the graph editor, something I'd struggled to grasp since my brief stint with Maya back in uni, suddenly didn't seem so intimidating. He also has a great animating style and is a genuinely funny dude. Crazy Scout Finn is a favourite of mine for a similar reason. I love his animating style, and it inspired me to have a bash at a stop-motion-esque animation of my own, though in SFM because I don't know how to use Gmod. It was a fun style to work in, and it actually ended up helping me understand the graph editor even further. Also, Bushman's rules. And last but not least, Raxo is a favourite because he displays so much technical skill in SFM. The lighting, the atmosphere, the shot composition, and yet it's also downright bizarre. His stuff is often more unsettling than SFM animations that are actually trying to be scary. I don't know, it's just hard to describe. How does he even storyboard this stuff? Does he storyboard it, or does he just make it up as he goes along? Honestly, this is a question that I wonder about most weird SFM and Gmod animations. Epic and Bacon asks, will you be creating more TF2 skins for the workshop, and if so, what would the designs be? Killionaire also asks about future war paints. While my Death by Chocolate war paint is the one that I'd really like to see added, I have had 1 or 2 ideas for future paints. There was one I was wanting to make that would have been based on a snowy owl, but then a Musical Notes war paint got uploaded to the workshop that used basically the same colour scheme that I had in mind, so I ended up not going with it because it would have looked too similar to that one. The Musical Notes skin is a pretty nice looking one though, you should check it out. Jojo the Sailor Man asks, what is the luckiest moment in TF2 you ever had? Probably when I unboxed an unusual minimal wear clover camoed war paint with the hot effect. which I then put on a whip because why not? Mr. Meme asks, why is your profile picture a pyro when you are a scout main? Well, back in the day, I was a pyro main. After a few years, I started playing on an Australian server where I got 300 ping and I became a scout main instead, but that's a story for another day. I don't know, my pyro has always kind of been my little mascot, so I just got used to having him as an icon and, I guess, a representation of me. He's simple and cute, unlike my scout, who's a horrible, smelly, nasty little gremlin child. I don't think he'd work quite as well as a mascot. Fizneth asks, have you ever thought of collaborating with other TF2 YouTubers? It's something I'd be open to doing. It's really easy to get burnt out and to run out of ideas when you're working solo, I've found. Back in uni, all my best ideas came about because me and my friends would toss concepts around and help each other out. In a similar vein, I'd really like to help work on a Saxy entry this year. I miss working in a group and I feel like it'll be a pretty cool experience. The Upgrade Zone asks, what workshop item would you want to see added to TF2 besides your own? The battle bandages. Valve, please let Soldier show off his guns. Also the Authority gloves for reasons. Oh, and also the super jumping robot because Mega Man Scout. What's not to like about Mega Man Scout? As for war paints, I would say definitely Tomb Raided. It's a really nice, well-detailed paint and it makes good use of what I think is the shine from the Macaw Masked war paint. It just looks really nice. 5S asks, do you think war paints are a good addition to TF2? Why do you have so many medics? Personally, I love war paints. I love any and all customization options in games, and I love that it lets me have weapons that I can name after my favourite robot master because I'm a big nerd. That being said, I can understand why some people aren't too keen on them. They have a negative effect on the game's frame rate, and some of them don't fit the game's style at all. Bonk varnished. I would never willingly give up my Woodland Warrior children though, I love them too much. Also, it's a well-known fact that medics are attracted to shiny things. Stickmaster500 asks, why are you called Chloe Mew? Because of my mum, basically. Way back in around 2001, we were getting dial-up internet for the first time, and I needed a username for my new AOL email address. I couldn't think of anything myself, so my mum combined my name with the name of my favourite Pokemon and it just stuck. I can't really imagine going by any other name. Suin Muse Win asks, when and why did you start doing YouTube? I created my channel all the way back in 2006. As for why I made it, I don't know, I guess because it was there. The site was a very different place back then. Mobile phones had abysmally shitty cameras, and it was just all round more awkward to get files off of them and upload them to the internet. At first I mostly just posted silly videos from my phone, and then later on it became a dumping ground for works in progress and tests for my uni animations. It wasn't until even later that I got a laptop that could record things without lagging to hell, and I started tinkering around with recording silly things that happened while playing on the 300 ping Australian server I mentioned earlier. Rest in peace, M Garden. From there, I experimented with recording time-lapses of my art process, posting SFM animations, and messing around with more TF2 stuff, and, well, here we are. Making stuff for my channel is a fun little hobby now, even if it takes me forever to actually post anything. Uncle Foof asks, what was the first drawing that you thought was actually good, and may we see it? Oh god, probably a drawing of some stupid fluffy purple dragon character I had named Kandrak. I was just starting to learn how to use Photoshop and was experimenting with colouring in and shading my scanned drawings. Coincidentally, this was made in the same year I made my YouTube channel. Oh Jesus Christ, where do we even start with this? How does he have abs on his fur? Why did I draw lines on his stomach like he was scaly when he clearly is covered in fur? Why is his forehead and by extension his head so huge? And most importantly, why did I fill the background with a preset grass texture? I was genuinely proud of this back in the day. Neo Pretzel asks, What is the most cursed thing you've ever drawn? Probably this Pikachu I drew when I was 10. Technically, this is the first piece of digital art that I ever did, but I prefer to forget it exists. Oh, and also Mustache Marth. Fucked Up asks, who are your main inspirations? Art-wise, I'd say the main things that inspired me while I was growing up was Pokemon, Neopets, Invader Zim, and the Awkward Zombie comics. Pokemon and Neopets are some of the earliest things I remember drawing, and I would say are responsible for my penchant for drawing weird monster things. Invader Zim was something that I was hugely into as I was just starting to get into my teens, and for a long time I copied the art style of the show. The influence probably isn't as apparent now as it used to be, but every now and then I think it still comes through in the way that I draw eyes. Awkward Zombie was a comic that I loved as I was getting into my mid-teens. I was big into Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and I loved the way that Katie drew and characterised everyone, even if it wasn't necessarily accurate to how the characters really were. I have to say, I was quite confused when I got Shadow Dragon for the DS and I found that Marth was, in fact, not a stuck-up, snarky son of a bitch. The comics inspired me to draw the characters myself, and I broke away from my Invader Zim style and started trying to develop a style of my own. I suffered from a very bad case of same-face syndrome for a few years as a result of this, but it was a step in the right direction, I guess. Mr. Meme asks, how tall are you actually? To be honest, I don't precisely know what size I am. I have a vague recollection of seeing it written down as 155 centimetres somewhere, so that's what I go by, which puts me at the very cusp of 5'1". When I was born, the doctors did tell my mum that I was never going to be very big. 3 Dylan Star asks, your "you stink" or "you smell" insult is becoming more of a meme in your circle of friends. Why did you create it, and when did you create it? Now, the funny story about that is that I didn't create it. It's actually a silly family thing started by my mum, and I'd say it's more of an affectionate thing than an actual insult. Sometimes when she wants to check up on me but doesn't have anything to really say or talk about, she'll send me a text saying Chloe smells. Similarly, sometimes when I walk past my brother and I don't really fancy a conversation but want to acknowledge him, I'll say, Tom smells. Or I'll say some other stupid inside joke like pretending to fire lasers at him, but I digress. Basically, I just consider telling a friend that they're smelly to be just some silly sign of affection, really. Except when it comes to Timo, because he really is stinky. Timo asks, opinion on getting kicked into orbit for the smell jokes you make, you short person. Joke's on you, I'm going to I-63 on stilts. Medi Excalibur 2012 asks, why won't you finally admit your secret everlasting love for the spy? Reach Out asks, why haven't you ever taken a shower or bath since you were born? Your mother and I wonder the same thing about you. Dio asks, who's your favourite M-Garden admin and why is it Dio? Sorry Dio, Moth was always the best M-Garden admin. Sir Duck asks, why are you so small? Ron What asks, why is there smoke coming out of your oven, Chloe? That isn't smoke, it's steam. Steam from the... oh wait, no, it's just my old hat. Well, that's everything for now. I hope this was fun and informative, and sorry to those whose questions I wasn't able to answer. In an ideal world, I'd be able to answer everything without the video ending up half an hour long, but unfortunately, I'm not powerful enough to override the passage of time just yet. Maybe next time.